This model from WSI has one of the first 1:50 scale Broshuis trailers, and Broshuis is a very well known Dutch trailer manufacturer. The model comes in the usual WSI branded box, and it consists of a Scania R5 tractor and a Broshuis trailer, and it's in the colours of the French craneage and heavy haulage company Autaa. In the box is the two parts of the truck and a couple of bags containing parts. So for the assembly, let's get this truck on the road. And the first easy job to do is to put the kingpin of the trailer into the fifth wheel of the Scania. There are a number of options for the truck, but for this initial setup we'll just build a box up on the top of the gooseneck, and then we can carry around a few bits and pieces as we go. The parts are metal and they fit reasonably well. The Scania chassis is largely modelled in metal and the twin exhausts look particularly good. But the nicest part of this particular model is the Autaa colour scheme and graphics, and that also extends to having an emblem on the door mirrors. Behind the cab there's a ladder and speed limit signs, and there are also realistic number plates on the truck. The Broshuis trailer is very detailed and well up to the usual standard of WSI trailers. Underneath there's a detailed structure and suspension, and that includes hoses running to the hydraulics. The wheels look good, and there's a yellow safety stripe down the edges, and there's a Broshuis graphic on both the edge and on the mud flaps. The deck detailing is very good with replica timbers which have bolt hole positions, and at the rear the ramps are also nicely detailed with realistic sized chains. Out onto the cranes etc. Autoroute, and the Scania rolls along quite nicely. As usual, the steering doesn't have much of a range of movement and it's quite loose on this particular model. But as we always say, something is better than nothing. Anybody who wants to tinker with the engine will be pleased that the cab tilts forward. And if we swiftly move on to the trailer, we find that it's got many features. Firstly, each of the rear axles has got nicely sprung independent suspension. And at the rear, the last axle also has steering with a reasonable range of movement. Moving towards the front, and the landing legs unscrew, and that lowers the pads and reveals smooth pistons rather than screw threads. Anyway, with the landing legs back up, let's try the rear steering on the trailer, and it seems to corner quite convincingly. The next optional add-on is a couple of ramp plates, and these allow a wheeled vehicle to get up onto the gooseneck. So with those in place, let's see how that might work. And once again the massive giant hand cranes come into play. Here we're loading up a couple of pieces of access plant, and it all makes for a very interesting looking display. But if you haven't got a giant hand crane, Broshuis thoughtfully supply loading ramps. These are articulated and lower down reasonably flat, although the rear end stabilisers on the trailer are non-functional. Once the ramps are down, the giant hand can drive on a piece of equipment rather than having to lift it on. Another feature of this trailer is that it is extendable. It is a little bit sticky to start, but quite smooth once it gets going. And then you can add more parts, including deck posts, of which there are plenty. And another useful part is this support beam which spans between two deck posts. Once that's in place, it produces a support which is at the same height as the gooseneck. So if we remove a part of the box, we can then add something very long. And here we've got a big steel fabrication. We now have a bit of a convoy exceptionnel, so let's add some width markers. And the ones at the front are tucked under the gooseneck and pull out. At the rear you have to slot some in, but on the review model a little bit of trimming of the plastic had to be done to get them to fit inside the holes. And another option, if you want it, are small tabs which can be used to lock a container into place. The last of the many features on the trailer is that the deck width is extendable, and to do that you pull out the small plastic extension beams. The plastic timbers are all different lengths and they are marked with tiny numbers to indicate their sequence, and with that you can carefully position them in place. Of course, this is one of the more fiddly modelling jobs, and it's not one to try if you've had a few beers. They are also easily knocked off, so make sure you don't sneeze. But once they are in place, they are a nice looking detail. Lastly, it's time for a quick dim check, so let's see how long the extended trailer is. And overall it's about 17 inches or 44 centimetres. WSI has a good reputation for making heavy haulage trucks, and this Broshuis trailer doesn't disappoint. Both the detailing and the functionality of the model is very good, and the Autaa colour scheme also makes it a striking model. Overall, this truck from WSI is another outstanding model.